Lord, we thank you. We thank you that we've been able to have access to your word so easily. That we've been able to come here and freely read it in this public setting. We pray, Lord, that you would open our ears and our hearts and our minds to hear and know and be that which you call us to be. In Jesus' name. Amen. Well, I just have to get a couple of tissues out. I don't know why I got a bit weepy this morning. Must be the humidity in the air. Okay. No, I shouldn't make light of that. I'll be honest with you, it's the overwhelming of God's love. Okay. We ready to go? Okay. So, those at home, welcome. Welcome. Even though I've just been rambling on there, I just want to tell you what the readings should be, and I can't find where they are. Here they are. So the reading for those at home, Psalm 119 verses 9 to 16, and John chapter 12 verses 20 to 33. And you can have a read of those at home and join us after you pause or unpause the video. Okay, so for us, I'm referring a bit from Barclay here, as I like to do. And he suggests that even though this incident that we read in John is not in the other Gospels, okay, it's fitting that we see it here in John. He says that the fourth Gospel was the one written to present the truth of Christianity in a way that the Greeks could appreciate and understand. He also says that it's not unusual, or wasn't unusual, to find Greeks in Jerusalem, as they were traditionally, the Greeks of that time, and probably still today, I don't know, but of that time, they were eager to find out new things. Eager to find out new things. And they've been described as characteristically a seeker after the truth. I don't know about you, but I'd like to be considered one of those people. A seeker after the truth. And we know who the truth is, don't we? Jesus Christ. So the next question that they bring up was, why had they come to see this Jesus? Why had they even heard of him? J.H. Bernard suggests that it wouldn't have been uncommon for a Greek to have come to the court of the Gentiles, which is where the money changers tables were being set up. Okay? Not uncommon to have had that, gone to the court of the Gentiles, and he suggests that they may have even heard about Jesus turning over these tables, or maybe they'd even witnessed it. And if they'd witnessed it or heard of that, that'd certainly be a case to come and check out who this fellow was. And initially, and this is another interesting thing, I don't know whether you've heard this before. Initially, he suggests that they might have approached Philip, this Barclay suggesting this, because Philip was a Greek name. You know how it is? Familiarity. When you go to somewhere, you cling to people that you know. Or is that just me that does that? We like the familiarity, don't we? I'll give you an example. I was remembering back to when I was a young person. I'm the oldest of three children. So there was me, my sister, and then my brother. Okay, my brother's the youngest. And my sister and I, as kids often do, when they want something, they're looking for the best way to make sure they get what they want. Okay, does that make sense to everyone else? You're probably a lot more other-centred than I was as a child. But what we would do is, we would always send our youngest brother to go and ask. Okay, one, familiarity. Okay, we knew him. And we knew he'd do what we asked. Okay? And he would always go and ask just as we requested. And it reminded me a bit of the Greeks in this sort of setting here. Okay, they see someone with a bit of familiarity, Philip, because it's a Greek name, and they ask him to go and talk to Jesus. We wanted to see Jesus. So you get the familiar. Why did we ask our brother, do you think, to go and ask on our behalves? Because he was a cute little brother. Mum and Dad wouldn't say no to him. You know, so with that familiarity, we see how we can use that familiarity to assist in that which we want. We used to ask our brother to go and get those things that we thought we wanted. And I think the Greeks might have done that with Philip also. And Philip goes and sees Andrew. But that's a lot of speculation, and it's painting, I hope it might paint a little bit of a picture. You know, none of that is definitive at all. The important thing, though, that we want to see in this reading is right now. This, I'm going to, not right now, but I'm going to tell you right now. Jesus tells them that he has come to save not a select group of people, but all who will believe in him. He will not turn anyone away who is truly seeking him. Okay, if you want to switch off now, that's okay. Go from this time knowing that Jesus will not turn anyone away who is truly seeking him. He says in the reading, and this is from the King James, if any man serve me, let him follow me, and where I am, there shall also my servant be. If any man serve me, him will my Father honour. For the people of the time, hearing this next part of Jesus talking, where he's talking about the death that he's going to face, and even this part here where he's talking about his Father, it would have been shocking for the people of this time to hear. Okay, it would have been shocking, especially to the Jewish hearer. See, this language was used for the Messiah, the one for whom Israel was waiting. They were waiting for him to come and conquer and set things right and boot the Romans out. He was one that was sent by God to restore. What they didn't understand is that they were expecting conquest, and they weren't open to receiving sacrifice. Okay? The sacrifice is that vision of the cross. And I want to just spend a little bit more time in light of the not turning anyone away and understanding just how far God was willing to go to bring all people to himself in that sacrifice of Jesus on the cross, in that vision of Jesus on the cross. And these are questions that I was asking myself. I always take the Lenten period really seriously and the Advent period really seriously because, you know, it's something that it's very easy to go through the motions. And I know I've said this before, but we want to be taking this seriously so as we're impacted anew by the great love of God in Jesus Christ. Because it's very easy to look back and just read over and say, yeah, we know that. Okay? So that's why I like getting a bit teary. Because I remember again just how much I need a Saviour. And how much you need a Saviour. These are the questions I was asking myself. Do I struggle with doubt or uncertainty in faith? Do you? You know, I don't know whether you do or not. I think if Thomas was journeying with the living Christ, the living Jesus, and he had doubts. I figure wrestling with doubts and uncertainty in our humanness must be part of the journey. You know, and I was thinking that maybe as we journey more and more, and we press in faith, we grow. We grow out of the uncertainty into more certainty. Does that make sense? We grow. I can't help, I said this morning, I can't help but keep getting drawn back to Sandra's preaching there the other week, where she was talking about the disciples following as closely as they could to Jesus, to the Master. I can't shake that image, and I know I've said it a couple of times since. That's the image I want for me. Is that the image you want for you? That we would be covered with the dust of the Master's steps. I think Sandra even suggested his sweat. We were walking that close. We wanted to be that much like him. See, it's started now. Just tell me if I get tissue in your beard. Can't even see where I'm up to now. Now it's grim when you've got to leave your glasses up to see. I think that we grow in this. That's what I was up to. And I know there's times. I think this is the thing that I wrestle with most. And that's why I don't mind getting to be teary in front of people. You know? Overwhelmed by the love of God. And I pray you might know what I'm feeling now. Because I'm aware of my unworthiness, of my sinfulness, of my undeservedness, of my unloveliness. And yet God opens the door. I don't want to be moving in that space anymore. I want to grow following the Master, covered in his dust. What about you? Do you ever get overwhelmed by your unworthiness? Your sinfulness? I don't know, do you ever move in these spaces? I don't even think we even know we're moving in these human spaces sometimes. Holy Spirit, show us. We talked last week about the human state, or that determining that we like to dwell in the darkness rather than the light. And when I think about myself in those settings, I think, Lord, why would you even bother? But I'm glad you did. I'm not telling you all these things or challenging you with these things to say, you are horrible people. We're all horrible people. We need to dwell on these things to remember just how much we need a Saviour in our lives. Because it's only when we remember who we are, how much more thankful we are for what Jesus did in his death and resurrection for us. It's one of those reminders of the amazing love of God. And in this statement we hear by Jesus, we hear that he is for any and all who believe in him. So while we're dwelling in our undeservedness, remember, that's what's in here. We want to be like him. We want to follow him. Because our belief is action. It's not enough just to say, yeah, I believe. If you really know, you want to follow. You want to be covered with that lovely dust for the food of Jesus. And we grow as His servants. And Jesus says God honours those who believe and take steps to follow. So next bit we're confronted by what Barclay refers to as Jesus' tension and triumph. And we start with the tension. Oh dear, this is getting ridiculous, isn't it? Thought I got it out in the first service. My soul is troubled, he says. And what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour. Can you see that link with the Garden of Gethsemane? That similar feeling? So there's the recalling and that tension, and then he comes forward with the reminder of the work that he came to do. He goes on to say, but for this cause I came unto this hour. Father, glorify thy name. Is Jesus in tension, in struggle, and he doesn't lose sight of who he was called to be, of what he was called to do. He moves forward in that space. How often, though, do we, or do I, as a human being, stop and hang out in the overwhelming trouble and challenge of life? How often does your mind speak to you these words? It's too hard. It's too much. It's more than I can bear. I can't take anymore. I want to stop. You know, God's in the midst of all of that. And the conviction that I had is maybe I need to seek Him more fully. Maybe I need to spend more time thinking and remembering who and what I've been called to be and what Jesus went through to allow that. It's easy just to stop there. And maybe I'm just speaking to me here. If any of this resonates, that's wonderful. You've probably all got it all together. We're human. And when we remember what we've been called to be, and we call out to God, even in those times that are overwhelming, and we remember how far He was willing to go to bring us to Himself, we remember He's there. And when we seek and take the time to seek, God will affirm and strengthen. And He does that for Jesus. You know, imagine being there in this moment. Jesus just said this, now my soul is troubled. But then hear the voice from heaven that says, I have both glorified it and will glorify it again. The people therefore that stood by and heard it said that it thunders, and others said, an angel spake to him. Imagine what it was like to be there. To hear the thundering voice of God, or the voice of angels as people thought it might have been. If you were going through a challenging time, all of a sudden you're hearing that's going to transform the way we think about things, isn't it? And it turns the tension into triumph. But get this, the next bit is the thing that really floors me, because, Jesus is going through all of this, and he says, Jesus answered and said, this voice came not because of me, but because of your sakes, or but for your sakes. So even in that, the affirmation was for us to help us believe, to help us to respond, to help us to know just how much God loved us. See, even that's for us. I mean, I don't know about you, but that just floors me. So that we would believe. And I pray, I hope that in this time here today, you might be touched again, overwhelmed again by just how far God was willing to go to know you. You know, I think too often we're caught up in the tension that we don't need to hear or see the fullness of the triumph that Christ has won for us. For all who will call upon His name, even in the darkest hours, we can be assured that we have victory and certainty and a future in Christ alone. Do you want that? I want that. May we remember these following things from today. That God will never forsake anyone who is seeking Him. I said this morning, may we. Sounds a bit French, doesn't it? May we. May we not be comfortable and remember that to believe is to follow. There's a response. And we are allowing the Holy Spirit to transform us. We are growing into the likeness of the Master. And may we choose to press on in those uncertain times, those tense moments, those overwhelming moments, where, like Jesus demonstrated, we remember our call as children of God into the Father's work, just as Jesus did, and that we hear or seek to hear the affirming voice of the Father as we press on into that which He has called us, for the benefit of those around us, that we would grow in our likeness of Him, that God would be glorified. And so, some other words I think about regularly too was Nevin's preaching last time, and he talked about marvelling in God. May we marvel at the awesome light of God. May we be impacted again in this Lenten journey. And may we be overwhelmed by the length that He was willing to go in Jesus to save us and all who would believe in Him. Amen. We're going to sing our next hymn at the name of Jesus.